What if I told you some of the world's greatest ancient civilizations are hiding in places most people have never heard of? A mountain city built above the clouds, a village older than the pyramids, massive stone walls raised without mortar, forgotten fortresses overlooking ancient rivers, and mysterious monuments so enormous they can still be seen stretching across the landscape thousands of years after their builders disappeared. These aren't legends, they're real archaeological sites that continue to reshape our understanding of the ancient world. So tonight, we'll journey across forgotten kingdoms, hidden mountain fortresses, prehistoric villages, and remarkable ruins, uncovering the places where ancient civilizations rose, flourished, and slowly vanished beneath the weight of time. But before we begin, take a moment to subscribe, and as always, if you subscribe before we start, you might just receive 7 years of good luck. At the very least, you'll never miss another journey into the ancient world. Now get comfortable, relax. The forgotten city that once ruled the Silk Road. In the deserts of Central Asia lie the ruins of a city that was once among the largest on Earth. Today, the landscape is quiet. Winds move across the empty plains, ancient walls rise from the sand, and scattered ruins stretch toward the horizon. It is difficult to imagine that this remote place once stood at the center of a vast network connecting east and west. A city where merchants arrived from China, Persia, India, and the Mediterranean. A city of immense wealth, learning, and influence. A city so important that medieval travelers described it as one of the great wonders of the world. This remarkable place is known as Merv, and its story is one of the most extraordinary rise and fall narratives in human history. Merv is located in modern-day Turkmenistan, near the Murghab River oasis. For thousands of years, this fertile area provided a rare source of water within an otherwise arid landscape. In a region dominated by deserts, the oasis became a natural gathering place for travellers and settlers. Communities emerged here long before the rise of great empires. Over time, those communities grew into one of the most important cities in Central Asia. The city's location was its greatest advantage. Merv stood along the Silk Road, the vast network of trade routes linking distant civilizations. Caravans carrying silk, spices, precious metals, and countless other goods passed through the region. Merchants stopped to rest, trade, and exchange information. Ideas travelled alongside products. Religions spread across continents. And Merv became one of the great crossroads of the ancient world. One of the most fascinating aspects of Merv is its immense age. The site was occupied by different civilizations over thousands of years. Rather than existing as a single city, Merv developed through a series of settlements built beside or atop one another. As rulers changed and empires rose and fell, new cities emerged while older ones declined. The result is an archaeological landscape containing layer upon layer of history. Walking through the ruins today is like moving through different eras of the ancient world. The city flourished under numerous empires. Persians controlled it. Alexander the Great passed through the region. The Seleucids developed it further. Later, Islamic dynasties transformed Merv into one of the most important centers of learning and culture in the world. Each civilization left its mark on the city. Each contributed to its growth, and each helped shape its remarkable legacy. At its peak during the medieval period, Merv may have been one of the largest cities on Earth. Some historians believe its population reached hundreds of thousands. Its markets bustled with activity. Its libraries attracted scholars. Its workshops produced valuable goods. And its strategic position ensured a constant flow of visitors from distant lands. The city became famous not only for trade but also for knowledge. Scientists, writers, and religious scholars gathered here. Ideas that travelled along the Silk Road often passed through Merv before continuing their journey. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of impressive architecture throughout the site. Fortifications protected the city. Palaces housed rulers and officials. Mosques served growing communities. And sophisticated irrigation systems supported agriculture in the surrounding oasis. The city's survival depended upon careful management of water. Without it, life in the desert would have been impossible. One of the most striking features of Merv is the scale of its defensive structures. Massive walls surrounded portions of the city. Some still rise above the landscape today. These fortifications remind visitors that prosperity often attracted danger. A wealthy city situated on major trade routes inevitably became a target for rivals. For centuries, however, Merv continued to thrive, yet even great cities are vulnerable to catastrophe. In the 13th century, Merv faced one of the darkest moments in its history. The Mongol armies sweeping across Asia arrived at the city's gates. What followed became one of the most devastating events ever recorded in Central Asian history. The city was captured, much of its population was killed, and the thriving urban centre suffered enormous destruction. Although Merv survived in various forms afterward, it never fully recovered its former greatness. Trade routes gradually shifted. Political centres emerged elsewhere. The city declined. Buildings were abandoned. Sand and time slowly reclaimed the landscape. The bustling crossroads of civilizations became a collection of ruins, yet those ruins remained. For centuries, travellers crossing the region encountered the remnants of the lost city. Its walls still stood, its earthworks remained visible, and the scale of the site continued to inspire awe. Modern archaeology eventually revealed just how important Merv had once been. Researchers uncovered evidence of a city that connected distant worlds and helped shape the history of Eurasia. Today, Merv Archaeological Park preserves one of the largest archaeological sites in Central Asia. The ruins stretch across a vast area, revealing traces of multiple civilizations and centuries of human achievement. The city may be gone, but its story remains. Hidden within the deserts of Turkmenistan lies a forgotten metropolis, a crossroads of trade, culture, and knowledge, a city that once linked continents together, and one of the greatest lost cities of the ancient world. The lost Roman city buried by sand and time. Along the Mediterranean coast of Libya lie the ruins of a city that was once among the wealthiest in the Roman world. Today, silence fills its streets. Broken columns stand beneath the desert sun. Ancient walls stretch across the landscape, and the sea continues to wash against the nearby shore much as it did thousands of years ago. Yet there was a time when this place was filled with life. Merchants arrived from distant ports. Ships crowded its harbour. Markets overflowed with goods from across the Mediterranean, and magnificent public buildings reflected the wealth of one of Rome's greatest cities. This remarkable place is known as Leptis Magna, and despite its importance, it remains one of the most overlooked archaeological treasures of the ancient world. Leptis Magna is located on the coast of modern-day Libya, where the Mediterranean Sea meets the edge of North Africa. Its position made it ideal for trade. For centuries, ships travelled between Africa, Europe, and the Near East carrying goods, ideas, and people. The city grew where these routes intersected. Long before Roman rule, Leptis Magna was already an important settlement. Founded by Phoenician traders, it gradually developed into a thriving commercial centre. Its location allowed it to prosper from trade across the Mediterranean. Over time, the city became increasingly wealthy. When Rome expanded into North Africa, Leptis Magna became part of the growing empire. Rather than declining under Roman control, the city flourished. Its prosperity increased dramatically. New buildings appeared, public spaces expanded, and the population continued to grow. Leptis Magna eventually became one of the most impressive cities anywhere in the Roman world. Much of that success is connected to one man, the Roman Emperor Septimius Severus. Born in Leptis Magna in the 2nd century AD, Severus later rose to become ruler of the empire itself. Few cities could claim an emperor as a native son. When Severus gained power, he invested heavily in his hometown. Grand construction projects transformed the city. Monumental architecture appeared throughout the urban landscape. The city entered its golden age. Today, visitors walking through the ruins can still see the scale of those ambitions. Massive columns line ancient streets. Public squares stretch across large areas. Temples, baths, and administrative buildings reveal the wealth once concentrated here. Perhaps the most impressive structure is the Severan Forum, an enormous public space surrounded by elegant architecture. The craftsmanship visible throughout the city remains extraordinary. One of the most fascinating aspects of Leptis Magna is how well-preserved parts of the site remain. Many Roman cities were continuously occupied for centuries. Later construction often destroyed earlier structures. Leptis Magna experienced a different fate. As the city declined, large portions were gradually abandoned. Sand drifting from the surrounding landscape helped cover and protect many ruins. Ironically, the forces that buried the city also helped preserve it. For archaeologists, the site became a remarkable window into the Roman past. The city contained all the features expected of a major Roman centre. There were marketplaces where merchants conducted business, bathhouses where residents gathered socially, temples dedicated to various deities, and an impressive harbour that connected the city to distant regions. Leptis Magna was not a remote outpost. It was fully integrated into the wider Roman world. Goods arrived from across the empire, ideas circulated through its streets, and its citizens participated in a vast network that stretched from Britain to Egypt. Yet beneath the grandeur lay ordinary lives. Families lived in houses throughout the city. Children played in its streets. Workers loaded cargo at the harbour. Artisans created goods for local markets. The ruins reveal not only imperial ambition, but also the daily routines of people who called the city home. One reason Leptis Magna continues to fascinate researchers is the exceptional state of preservation. Walking through certain areas feels almost like stepping into the Roman world itself. Streets remain visible. Building foundations retain their original layout. Architectural details survive with remarkable clarity. Few ancient cities provide such a vivid sense of urban life. Yet despite its success, the city eventually declined. Political instability affected the Roman Empire. Trade routes changed. Economic conditions shifted. Over time, Leptis Magna lost much of its importance. The harbour gradually became less useful. Population levels fell. Buildings were abandoned, and the once great city slowly faded from prominence. Centuries passed. Sand accumulated across the ruins. Parts of the city disappeared beneath the landscape. For generations, much of Leptis Magna remained hidden from view. Only modern archaeology revealed the true scale of what had been lost. Today, Leptis Magna is often considered one of the finest Roman archaeological sites anywhere in the world. Yet compared to Rome, Pompeii, or Athens, it remains relatively unknown. Perhaps that is part of its appeal. The city still feels like a discovery, a forgotten masterpiece preserved beside the Mediterranean. Along the coast of North Africa stands the remains of a city that once rivaled the greatest centres of the Roman Empire. A place of wealth, trade, and monumental architecture, a city buried by sand and time, and one of the most extraordinary archaeological sites ever uncovered in the ancient world. The forgotten capital hidden in the Carpathian Mountains. Deep within the forested mountains of Romania lie the remains of a city that once challenged one of the greatest empires in history. The landscape feels remote even today. Dense forests cover the hillsides, mountain ridges stretch across the horizon, and narrow valleys cut through the rugged terrain. Hidden among these highlands are the stone ruins of a place that was once the political and spiritual heart of an ancient kingdom, a city built far from the great centres of the Mediterranean world, a stronghold protected by nature itself, and a capital whose rulers dared to resist the power of Rome. This remarkable site is known as Samizagetusa Regia, and its story remains one of the most fascinating chapters of ancient European history. The site is located in Romania's Orăști Mountains, part of the vast Carpathian Range. Today, reaching the ruins requires a journey through forests and winding mountain roads. The isolation is striking, yet for the people who built the city, that isolation was a strategic advantage. The mountains provided natural defences, steep slopes protected important approaches, and the surrounding landscape made it difficult for enemies to launch large-scale attacks. This was exactly the kind of location chosen by a people known as the Dacians. The Dacians controlled large parts of what is now Romania during the centuries before the Roman conquest. They developed powerful communities, built fortified settlements, and established trade connections throughout the region. At the centre of their world stood Samizagetusa Regia. The city served as both a political capital and a religious centre. Important decisions were made here, ceremonies took place here, and rulers governed their kingdom from the mountain stronghold. One of the most fascinating features of the site is its complex layout. Unlike many ancient cities built on flat plains, Samizagetusa was carefully integrated into the mountainous terrain. Stone walls followed the contours of the landscape. Terraces were carved into hillsides. Roads connected different sections of the settlement. The builders adapted to their environment with remarkable skill. Rather than transforming the mountains, they worked alongside them. The fortress itself was heavily defended, Massive stone walls protected important areas, watch points overlooked surrounding valleys, and access routes could be carefully controlled. The city was designed to survive in a dangerous world. The Dacians understood that powerful enemies existed beyond their borders. Among those enemies was Rome. At the height of its power, the Roman Empire expanded across much of Europe. Many kingdoms eventually became part of the empire. The Dacians resisted. For a time, they successfully maintained their independence. Their rulers became famous for challenging Roman ambitions in the region. One of the most famous Dacian kings was Decebalus. Under his leadership, the kingdom remained a serious obstacle to Roman expansion. The conflict eventually led to a series of wars between the Dacians and the Romans. Ancient historians described fierce fighting across the mountainous frontier. Roman armies marched into Dacian territory. Fortresses were attacked, settlements were threatened, and Samosata Regia found itself at the centre of the struggle. The final Roman campaign proved decisive. In the early 2nd century AD, Emperor Trajan launched a major invasion. Roman forces advanced deep into the mountains. After difficult fighting, they reached the Dacian capital. The city fell, its defences were breached, and one of the most important centres in ancient Eastern Europe was brought under Roman control, yet the ruins reveal much more than military history. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of workshops, homes, religious structures and public spaces. The city was not simply a fortress, it was a thriving community. People lived, worked, traded, and worshipped here. The settlement functioned as the heart of a sophisticated society. Perhaps the most mysterious area of the site is its sacred district. Here, archaeologists discovered unusual stone structures, arranged in circular and rectangular patterns. Some researchers believe these were used for religious ceremonies. Others have compared certain features to astronomical observation sites. The exact purpose of some structures remains uncertain. Without written records explaining their function, many questions remain unanswered. This uncertainty has only added to the site's fascination. One reason Samosata continues to capture imaginations is its setting. The ruins emerge from forests that seem almost timeless. Mist often drifts through the mountains. The silence is broken only by wind and birdsong. It is easy to imagine why the Dacians selected this location. The landscape itself feels protective, almost sacred. For centuries after the Roman conquest, nature slowly reclaimed the city. Buildings collapsed, walls deteriorated, trees spread across the abandoned terraces. The capital disappeared into the forest. Its story faded from memory. Then archaeologists began uncovering its remains. Each excavation revealed new evidence about a civilization once overshadowed by Rome. Today, Samosata Regia is recognized as one of the most important archaeological sites in Romania. It provides a rare glimpse into a powerful kingdom that stood at the crossroads of ancient Europe. A kingdom that built its capital among the mountains and dared to challenge an empire. Hidden within the forests of the Carpathians lies a forgotten capital. A city of stone terraces and sacred circles, a stronghold that resisted Rome, and one of the most remarkable archaeological treasures in all of Europe. A lost city that mastered water. In the remote salt deserts of western India lies the remains of a city that should not have existed. The landscape is harsh. For much of the year, the surrounding region is dry and unforgiving. Water is scarce. Temperatures can become extreme. And yet, more than 4,000 years ago, a thriving urban centre rose here on an island within a vast seasonal marsh. Its inhabitants built reservoirs, engineered sophisticated water systems, and created one of the most advanced cities of the ancient world. Long before Rome, long before Athens, and centuries before many of history's most famous civilizations reached their peak. Today, this remarkable place is known as Dolavira, and it remains one of the greatest archaeological discoveries ever made in South Asia. Dolavira is located on Kadir Island in the Great Rann of Kutch, a vast salt desert in the Indian state of Gujarat. To modern visitors, the landscape feels isolated. The horizon stretches endlessly. Vegetation is sparse, and during parts of the year the surrounding terrain transforms into a shimmering white expanse of salt. It seems like an unlikely location for a major city. Yet during the Bronze Age, this region was home to one of the most important settlements of the Indus Valley civilization. The city flourished between roughly 3000 and 1500 BC. At the time, The Indus civilization was one of the largest and most advanced societies in the world. Its cities stretched across parts of modern India and Pakistan. Trade networks connected distant communities. Craftspeople produced fine goods, and urban planning reached remarkable levels of sophistication. Dholavira stood among the civilization's most impressive achievements. One of the first things archaeologists noticed about the site was its layout. Unlike many ancient settlements that developed gradually, Dholavira appears carefully planned. The city was divided into distinct sections. Massive walls separated important areas. Gateways controlled movement throughout the settlement. Public spaces were organized with surprising precision. Everything suggests deliberate design. The builders understood exactly what they wanted to create. Yet what truly sets Dholavira apart is its relationship with water. In a region where rainfall could be unpredictable, survival depended upon careful management of resources. The inhabitants developed an extraordinary system to collect, store, and distribute water. Large reservoirs were carved into the landscape. Channels directed seasonal rainwater towards storage areas. Stone-lined tanks captured precious supplies. Every drop mattered, and the city was designed around that reality. Even today, archaeologists remain impressed by the scale of the water management system. Some reservoirs were enormous. Others were positioned strategically throughout the settlement. Together, they created a network capable of supporting a large population despite challenging environmental conditions. The achievement demonstrates a remarkable understanding of engineering. For the people of Dholavira, water was not simply a resource. It was the foundation of the city's existence. Excavations have revealed much more than reservoirs. Researchers uncovered houses, workshops, streets, and public buildings. Artifacts found throughout the site provide glimpses into daily life. Pottery, tools, ornaments, and trade goods reveal a society connected to a wider world. Dholavira was not isolated. Merchants exchanged goods with distant communities. Ideas travelled across long distances. The city formed part of a vast network stretching across the Indus civilization. One of the most intriguing discoveries at the site involved a large inscription made using symbols from the still undeciphered Indus script. The sign once stood above an important gateway. It remains one of the largest examples of Indus writing ever found. Yet despite decades of research, nobody has fully deciphered the script. The people of Dholavira left messages behind, but modern scholars still cannot read them. This mystery adds another layer of fascination to the site. Imagine uncovering a city's signs and inscriptions while remaining unable to understand what they say. The inhabitants seem to be speaking across thousands of years, yet their words remain just out of reach. Dholavira is filled with moments like that. The city reveals much, but it also keeps many secrets. Eventually, conditions began to change. Environmental shifts affected parts of the Indus world. Water sources became less reliable. Trade networks weakened. Cities that had flourished for centuries began facing new challenges. Dholavira gradually declined. Its population decreased. Important structures fell out of use, and over time the city was abandoned. The winds of the desert slowly covered the remains. For thousands of years, the lost city disappeared from memory. Then archaeologists brought it back to light. Their discoveries transformed understanding of the ancient world. Dholavira revealed that some of humanity's earliest urban planners were capable of solving problems with extraordinary creativity and skill. Today, the ruins stand as one of the most important archaeological sites in India. Visitors walk among the remains of streets, reservoirs, and stone structures that once formed a thriving city. The silence of the desert has replaced the sounds of daily life, yet the achievements of the builders remain visible everywhere. Hidden within the salt deserts of western India lies a city that mastered one of humanity's greatest challenges, a settlement shaped by ingenuity and planning, a civilization built around water, and one of the most remarkable archaeological discoveries of the ancient world, the lost citadel overlooking the Euphrates. On a rocky peninsula rising above the waters of the Euphrates River stands the remains of a fortress that has witnessed thousands of years of history. The location is extraordinary. Steep cliffs drop toward the river below. The surrounding landscape is rugged and dramatic, and from the summit it is possible to see for miles in every direction. For centuries, this was one of the most strategic positions in the region. Armies passed beneath its walls. Merchants travelled along nearby routes. Pilgrims visited its churches, and rulers fought to control it. Yet despite its remarkable history, few people outside Turkey have ever heard of it. Today, the fortress is known as Rumkale, and its story is one of the most fascinating forgotten chapters along the Euphrates. Rumkale is located in southeastern Turkey, where the Euphrates cuts through a landscape of hills and rocky outcrops. The fortress occupies a naturally defensible position. Cliffs protect much of the site. The river creates an additional barrier. Anyone attempting to approach would have faced significant challenges. Long before modern borders existed, this location offered both security and control. The origins of the site stretch far into the past. Archaeologists believe people recognized the strategic importance of the location thousands of years ago. Different civilizations occupied the region over time. Each left traces behind. As empires rose and fell, the fortress continued to serve as a valuable stronghold, overlooking one of the most important rivers in the ancient Near East. One of the most remarkable aspects of Rumkale is how many different cultures became connected to the site. Romans occupied the region. Byzantines strengthened its defences. Armenian rulers later controlled the fortress. Various Islamic dynasties also left their mark. Few places in the region experienced such a long and varied history. The fortress became a crossroads where different traditions, religions, and political powers intersected. At its height, Rumkale was much more than a military outpost. Within its walls stood homes, religious buildings, storage facilities, and administrative structures. People lived here permanently. Families raised children here. Merchants arrived with goods from distant places. Religious leaders carried out their duties. The fortress functioned as a small community perched above the river. Among the site's most important historical connections is its association with the Armenian Church. For a period of time, Rumkale served as an important religious centre. Churches were established within the fortress. Manuscripts were copied and preserved. Religious leaders gathered here while political uncertainty affected other parts of the region. The citadel became both a spiritual refuge and a defensive stronghold. The natural setting played an important role in the fortress's success. The Euphrates was one of the great rivers of the ancient world. For thousands of years it served as a route for communication, trade, and travel. Controlling a position above the river provided enormous advantages. The inhabitants of Rumkale could monitor movement through the region and maintain connections with neighbouring communities. The fortress occupied a position that was both isolated and connected. One of the most fascinating features of the site is the engineering visible throughout the ruins. Builders adapted their structures to the landscape with remarkable skill. Walls follow the contours of the cliffs. Passageways take advantage of natural rock formations. Defensive systems were carefully integrated into the terrain. Rather than reshaping the environment, the builders worked with it. The result was a fortress that seemed almost part of the mountain itself. Yet despite its strength, Rumkale could not escape the changes that transformed the region over the centuries. Political power shifted repeatedly. Trade routes evolved. New cities emerged elsewhere. The importance of the fortress gradually declined. Although it remained occupied for long periods, its role became less significant as the centuries passed. Eventually, much of the site was abandoned. The once busy citadel grew quiet. Its walls remained, but the life within them faded away. Today, visitors often arrive by boat, approaching the fortress from the water below. The journey offers a striking view of the cliffs and fortifications rising above the river. Even in ruin, the site possesses a powerful presence. The stone walls still dominate the landscape. The river continues flowing beneath the cliffs, and the sense of history remains impossible to ignore. Archaeologists continue studying Rumkale and the surrounding region. Each discovery adds new details to the story of the fortress and the people who lived there. Yet many mysteries remain. How much of the original settlement still lies hidden beneath the ground? What stories were recorded within its churches and libraries? And what traces of earlier civilizations remain undiscovered beneath the later structures? The answers may still be waiting among the ruins. High above the Euphrates stands a forgotten citadel shaped by centuries of history, a fortress claimed by empires, a refuge for communities and pilgrims, and one of the most remarkable lost strongholds in the ancient world, the hidden stone kingdom of Cappadocia. In the heart of central Turkey lies a landscape unlike anywhere else on Earth. Towering pillars of stone rise from the valleys. Cone-shaped rock formations stretch across the horizon. Entire homes are carved directly into cliffs, and hidden beneath the surface lies a world of tunnels, churches, and ancient settlements that remained unknown for centuries. At first glance, the landscape seems almost imaginary, as though it belongs in a work of fantasy rather than history. Yet every valley, cave, and towering rock is completely real. This remarkable region is known as Cappadocia, and at its heart lies the ancient town of Göreme, one of the most extraordinary archaeological landscapes ever shaped by both nature and human hands. Cappadocia is located in central Turkey, a region formed by powerful volcanic eruptions millions of years ago. Layers of ash settled across the landscape before gradually hardening into a soft volcanic rock known as tuff. Over countless centuries, wind and rain slowly carved the rock into thousands of unusual formations. Tall pillars emerged from the valleys, pointed cones rose from the earth, and strange stone towers appeared across the countryside. Today, these formations are known as the fairy chimneys. Although the name sounds mythical, the structures are entirely natural. What makes Cappadocia truly remarkable is not simply the landscape itself, it is what people chose to do with it. The soft volcanic stone proved easy to carve. Generations of inhabitants began creating homes directly inside the rock. Rooms were excavated into cliffs. Storage spaces appeared beneath the ground. Entire villages slowly developed without relying on traditional building materials. Instead of constructing walls, people shaped the landscape itself. One of the most fascinating places within Cappadocia is Göreme. Today it is known for its spectacular rock-cut churches and monasteries. Many of these structures date back more than 1,000 years. Inside, visitors can still find colourful frescoes covering walls and ceilings. Scenes from early Christianity remain remarkably well preserved despite the passing centuries. The churches were not built from stone blocks. They were carved directly into the mountains. Each chamber required enormous patience and skill. The result is an underground architectural world unlike almost anywhere else on Earth. During the early medieval period, Göreme became an important refuge for Christian communities. The isolated valleys provided safety during times of political instability. Monks established monasteries within the cliffs. Religious communities flourished. Small chapels appeared throughout the region. The surrounding landscape offered both protection and solitude. Life here was shaped by the stone itself. Yet the mysteries of Cappadocia extend far beyond its churches. Scattered throughout the region are hidden passages leading beneath the ground. Some connect to vast underground cities capable of sheltering thousands of people. Although Göreme is best known for its rock-cut monasteries, nearby discoveries reveal that entire communities once lived beneath the surface during times of danger. Ventilation shafts brought fresh air underground. Storage rooms preserved food supplies. Hidden entrances protected those seeking refuge. The landscape concealed far more than appeared on the surface. Archaeologists continue studying the region, uncovering evidence of civilizations that occupied Cappadocia for thousands of years. The Hittites lived here. Later came the Persians, the Romans, the Byzantines, and many others. Each civilization adapted to the extraordinary environment in its own way. Instead of replacing what came before, many simply expanded the existing network of caves and carved chambers. The result is a landscape containing layer upon layer of human history. One of the most striking aspects of Göreme is how naturally the settlement blends into its surroundings. From a distance, many buildings appear almost invisible. Windows emerge from cliff faces. Doorways disappear into rock formations. Homes seem to grow directly from the landscape itself. Nature and architecture become almost impossible to separate. It is easy to understand why early travellers believed the region possessed an almost magical quality. Yet everything here was created through patience, craftsmanship, and generations of careful work. Today, millions of visitors travel to Cappadocia each year. Many arrive to see the famous hot air balloons drifting above the valleys at sunrise. The view has become one of the most recognizable scenes in modern travel. But beneath that beauty lies a much older story. A story of people who transformed an unusual landscape into one of the world's most remarkable places to live. Their homes still remain, their churches still stand, and their hidden chambers continue to reveal new discoveries. In the valleys of central Turkey stands a landscape shaped by volcanoes, wind, and human ingenuity. A place where entire communities carved their lives into stone. A hidden kingdom beneath towering fairy chimneys. and one of the most extraordinary archaeological wonders of the ancient world, the forgotten stone city of Torre den Galme. On a quiet hill overlooking the Mediterranean Sea lie the remains of one of the largest prehistoric settlements in the Balearic Islands. At first glance, it appears peaceful. Low stone walls stretch across the landscape, ancient houses stand roofless beneath the open sky, and massive stone monuments rise silently above the ruins. It is not as famous as Stonehenge, nor does it attract the crowds of Pompeii or Ephesus. Yet for more than 2,000 years, this forgotten city watched over the island of Menorca. Its builders left behind impressive monuments, ingenious water systems, and unanswered questions about a culture that disappeared long before the arrival of the modern world. This remarkable place is known as Torre den Galme, and it offers a rare glimpse into one of Europe's least-known ancient civilizations. Torre den Galme is located on the Spanish island of Menorca, overlooking rolling hills and the distant coastline. Its position was carefully chosen. From the summit, the inhabitants could observe much of the surrounding countryside. The location offered security, access to farmland, and clear views of anyone approaching from the coast or inland valleys. It was an ideal place for a thriving community. Archaeologists believe the settlement was founded during the Bronze Age and expanded significantly during the Taleotic period, a unique prehistoric culture that flourished on Menorca and neighbouring Majorca. Although little is known about the people themselves, they left behind an extraordinary archaeological landscape. The first structures visitors notice are the enormous stone towers known as talayots. Built from massive limestone blocks stacked without mortar, these monuments dominate the settlement. Their exact purpose remains uncertain. Some researchers believe they served as watchtowers overlooking the surrounding landscape. Others suggest they functioned as ceremonial centres or symbols of community authority. Whatever their original role, constructing them required remarkable planning and cooperation. The people of Torre den Galme possessed no modern machinery. Every stone had to be moved by human effort alone. Surrounding the towers are dozens of circular stone houses. Unlike many prehistoric settlements, these homes reveal surprisingly sophisticated planning. Rooms were arranged around central courtyards. Stone benches lined the walls. Storage areas, workshops, and living spaces were carefully organised. Even today, it is possible to imagine daily life unfolding within these ancient homes. Families preparing meals, children playing between the buildings, craftsmen shaping tools from stone, bone, and metal. One of the settlement's most impressive achievements was its approach to water management. Menorca experiences long, dry summers, making fresh water a valuable resource. The inhabitants developed an ingenious system to collect and store rainwater. Channels carved into the rock directed water toward underground cisterns. These reservoirs allowed the community to survive during periods when rainfall was scarce. The system demonstrates a deep understanding of both engineering and the natural environment. Another mysterious feature is the Taula Sanctuary. Unique to Menorca, these monumental stone structures consist of a massive vertical pillar supporting an equally enormous horizontal stone, creating a shape resembling the letter T. No one knows exactly how they were used. Archaeologists believe they were important ceremonial sites where religious rituals may have taken place. Excavations have uncovered animal bones, pottery, and evidence of offerings nearby, suggesting these spaces held deep spiritual significance. Yet many questions remain unanswered. Who were the Taleotic people? What language did they speak? What stories did they tell? Unlike the Egyptians or Romans, they left no written records. Everything we know comes from archaeology. Stone walls, broken pottery, ancient tools, and the careful study of the landscape they left behind. As centuries passed, outside influences gradually reached Menorca. Phoenician traders crossed the Mediterranean. Later came the Carthaginians and eventually the Romans. Trade increased, new customs appeared, and life at Torre den Galme slowly began to change. By the Roman period, much of the settlement had been abandoned. The once busy streets fell silent. Homes collapsed. Vegetation reclaimed the hilltop. For centuries, the ancient city rested undisturbed beneath the Mediterranean sun. Modern archaeology has transformed our understanding of the site. Excavations continue revealing new details about daily life within the settlement. Researchers have uncovered tools, imported pottery, cooking utensils, jewellery, and evidence of long-distance trade. Each discovery adds another piece to the story of a civilization that once thrived on this small island. Yet despite decades of study, Torredon-Galmay still feels wonderfully mysterious. Its monuments remain unlike anything found elsewhere in Europe. Its people left behind remarkable architecture but almost no written history. Their voices have faded. Only the stones remain. Standing quietly above the sea, they continue guarding the secrets of one of the Mediterranean's forgotten cultures. High above the island of Minorca lies a city built from stone and silence, a settlement shaped by remarkable builders, a civilization remembered only through its monuments, and one of the most fascinating prehistoric sites hidden among the islands of the Mediterranean, the ancient tomb that guarded Ireland for 5,000 years. Hidden among the rolling hills of County Sligo in Western Ireland stands a stone monument older than the pyramids of Egypt. For more than 5,000 years, it has overlooked forests, fields, and distant mountains. Generations have passed through the landscape around it. Entire civilizations have risen and fallen, yet the monument has remained. Its massive stone entrance still welcomes visitors. Its ancient burial chamber still rests at its heart. And its purpose continues to spark questions about the people who built it so long ago. This remarkable place is known as Creevy Keele Court Tomb, one of the finest prehistoric monuments in Ireland, and a rare window into a forgotten world that existed long before written history. Creevy Keele Court Tomb is located in County Sligo, not far from Ireland's rugged Atlantic coastline. Today, the surrounding countryside is peaceful. Green fields stretch toward distant hills. Stone walls divide the landscape, and only birdsong breaks the silence. It is difficult to imagine that this quiet place once served as an important gathering site for one of Ireland's earliest farming communities. Archaeologists believe the monument was built around 3500 BC during the Neolithic period. This was a time when people across Ireland were beginning to settle permanently. Instead of living entirely as hunters and gatherers, communities cultivated crops, raised livestock, and built lasting monuments from stone. Creevy Keele became one of the largest and most impressive of these early achievements. The tomb's design is unlike an ordinary burial site. Visitors first enter a large open courtyard surrounded by carefully placed upright stones. This feature gives the monument its name, Court Tomb. Researchers believe the courtyard may have served as a gathering place where ceremonies took place before entering the burial chamber itself. Beyond the entrance lies a long stone passage leading toward a central chamber. Massive slabs of limestone form the walls. Enormous capstones once covered much of the structure. Although parts of the roof have collapsed over the centuries, enough remains to reveal the remarkable engineering skills of its builders. Constructing such a monument required careful planning and cooperation. Every stone had to be quarried, transported, and positioned without metal tools or modern machinery. The achievement becomes even more impressive when considering its age. Creevy Keele was already ancient when Stonehenge was taking shape. It had stood for nearly 2,000 years before the Romans reached Britain. Excavations carried out during the 20th century uncovered important clues about the site's history. Archaeologists discovered cremated human remains within the burial chamber, confirming that the monument served as a place of burial. Fragments of pottery, stone tools, and animal bones were also recovered. These discoveries suggest the tomb was used repeatedly over many generations. It was not simply a grave, it was a place of memory, ceremony, and community. One of the most intriguing discoveries revealed that the monument continued to change over time. Long after its original construction, later generations altered parts of the structure. Evidence suggests that ironworking may even have taken place nearby during the early medieval period. The ancient tomb had found new purposes as centuries passed. Its story did not end with the Neolithic people who first built it. Like many prehistoric monuments, Creevy Keele has inspired local traditions and folklore. For generations, ancient stone structures across Ireland were associated with supernatural beings, forgotten kings, or sacred places. Although many of these stories developed thousands of years after the tomb was built, they helped preserve its importance within the local landscape. The monument became more than an archaeological site. It became part of Ireland's cultural memory. Perhaps the greatest mystery surrounding Creevy Keele concerns the people themselves. Who were they? What beliefs inspired them to build such an enormous monument? What ceremonies took place within the stone courtyard? Without written records, archaeology provides only fragments of the answers. The stones remain, the pottery survives, the burials endure. but the voices of the builders have long since disappeared. Every excavation adds another piece to the puzzle. Modern techniques continue revealing details about the diets, customs and daily lives of Ireland's earliest farming communities, yet much remains unknown. That uncertainty is part of what makes places like Creevy so compelling. They remind us that large portions of human history remain hidden beneath the soil, waiting patiently to be rediscovered. Today, visitors can still walk through the ancient entrance just as people did 5,000 years ago. The same mountains rise in the distance, the same winds cross the fields, and the same stones continue standing where prehistoric builders carefully placed them thousands of years ago. In the quiet countryside of Western Ireland stands a monument older than the pyramids, a place built for remembrance, for ceremony, and for generations whose names have been lost to history. The ancient stones of Creevy continue to guard their secrets, just as they have for more than 5 millennia. The royal tombs hidden beneath Archaeological. In the rolling hills of central Turkey lies an ancient settlement that quietly changed our understanding of one of the world's earliest civilizations. There are no towering pyramids here, no massive Roman temples, and no famous marble statues welcoming visitors. Instead, beneath the layers of earth, archaeologists uncovered something far more unexpected. Royal tombs filled with remarkable treasures, intricate bronze standards unlike anything seen before, gold ornaments buried alongside forgotten rulers, and evidence of a civilization that flourished thousands of years before the rise of the classical world. This remarkable place is known as Archaeological, one of Turkey's oldest archaeological sites, and a place where every excavation has revealed another chapter of humanity's distant past. Archaeological is located in central Anatolia, a region that has been inhabited for thousands of years. Today the landscape is peaceful. Gentle hills surround fertile plains. Small villages dot the countryside. At first glance, nothing suggests that this quiet location once served as an important centre of power. Yet beneath the soil lay the remains of a settlement occupied for more than 4,000 years. Archaeologists believe people first settled here during the Chalcolithic period. Over time, the community expanded into a thriving Bronze Age town. Later, it became closely connected with the powerful Hittite civilization, one of the great kingdoms of the ancient Near East. Each generation built upon the remains of those who came before. As centuries passed, layers of history slowly accumulated beneath the ground. The site's greatest discoveries came during excavations in the early 20th century. As archaeologists carefully removed the soil, they uncovered a series of extraordinary royal tombs dating to the early Bronze Age. Inside were remarkable collections of artifacts unlike anything previously discovered in Anatolia. Gold diadems shimmered despite their great age. Silver drinking vessels rested beside the dead. Bronze weapons, jewellery, and finely crafted ornaments filled the burial chambers. Each object reflected remarkable skill and careful craftsmanship. Among the most mysterious discoveries were elaborate bronze objects known as ceremonial standards. Many featured delicate designs of bulls, deer, birds, and circular symbols. Some resembled the rays of the sun. Others incorporated intricate geometric patterns. Their exact purpose remains uncertain. Archaeologists believe they may have played a role in religious ceremonies or royal processions. Others suggest they served as sacred emblems carried during important rituals. Whatever their function, nothing quite like them had ever been found before. The tombs themselves reveal much about the people buried within them. Unlike ordinary graves, these burials were carefully prepared. The deceased were accompanied by valuable possessions intended to remain with them forever. Animal sacrifices also formed part of several ceremonies. The discoveries suggest that these individuals held positions of great importance within their society. They may have been rulers, priests, or members of powerful families whose influence shaped the surrounding region. Centuries later, Archaeological entered a new chapter of its history. The Hittites transformed the settlement into one of their important regional centres. They constructed massive stone walls. Monumental gateways protected the city. The most famous entrance, known today as the Sphinx Gate, features enormous carved stone figures standing guard on either side. Even after thousands of years, the sculptures remain remarkably impressive. Passing through the gateway today, it is easy to imagine merchants, soldiers and travellers entering the city long ago. Excavations have also uncovered homes, workshops, storage buildings, drainage systems, and paved streets. Together, these discoveries reveal a surprisingly organised settlement. Life here extended far beyond royal ceremonies. Families prepared meals, craftsmen shaped metal and pottery, farmers cultivated nearby fields, children likely played within streets that disappeared beneath the earth thousands of years ago. One of the most fascinating aspects of Archaeological is how many questions remain unanswered. The magnificent tombs tell us that powerful people once lived here. The treasures reveal wealth and artistic talent. Yet we know very little about the individuals themselves. What were their names? What stories surrounded their reigns? What beliefs inspired the remarkable objects buried beside them? Without written records from the earliest period, archaeology provides only fragments of the answers. Every excavation adds another piece to the puzzle. Modern scientific techniques continue revealing new information about ancient diets, trade, metallurgy, and daily life. Artifacts discovered at Archaeological show connections with distant communities across Anatolia and beyond. Far from being isolated, this settlement participated in networks of exchange that stretched across the ancient world. Today, Archaeological stands as one of Turkey's most important archaeological sites. Visitors walk through ancient gateways. They examine foundations that supported homes more than 4,000 years ago, and they admire treasures whose creators have long been forgotten. Beneath the quiet hills of central Anatolia lies a city shaped by generations of builders, a place where kings were buried with extraordinary treasures, where mysterious bronze symbols still puzzle archaeologists, and where the distant past continues to emerge, one discovery at a time. The forgotten fortress of Archaeological. Hidden among the green valleys of western Georgia lie the remains of a city that witnessed the rise and fall of empires. Stone walls still trace the outlines of ancient streets. Ruined towers overlook a winding river. And beneath the soil, archaeologists continue uncovering evidence of a settlement that flourished for more than 2,000 years. Unlike many famous archaeological sites, Archaeological rarely appears on lists of the world's great ancient cities. Yet its history is no less remarkable. It served as a royal fortress, a thriving trading centre, and a battlefield fought over by powerful kingdoms seeking control of the Caucasus. Today, much of its story survives only through ruined walls, forgotten legends, and ongoing archaeological discoveries. This remarkable place is known as Archaeological, and it remains one of Georgia's greatest hidden historical treasures. Archaeological lies beside the Tekuri River in western Georgia, surrounded by forested hills and fertile plains. Its location was carefully chosen. The river provided fresh water and an important transportation route. Steep hills offered natural protection, and the surrounding countryside supplied farmland capable of supporting a growing population. Long before massive stone walls were constructed, people had already recognized the strategic value of this landscape. According to ancient traditions, the city may have been known as Archaeopolis, meaning ancient city. Historical sources describe it as an important stronghold in the ancient kingdom of Colchis, the same region associated with the legendary tale of Jason and the Golden Fleece. Whether myth and history overlap here remains uncertain, but there is no doubt that Archaeological occupied an important place in the ancient Caucasus. As centuries passed, the settlement expanded into a heavily fortified city. Enormous defensive walls surrounded the hilltop. Watchtowers overlooked the surrounding valleys. Strong gates controlled access to the fortress. From these walls, defenders could observe anyone approaching long before they reached the city itself. The natural landscape worked together with human engineering to create an exceptionally strong defensive position. One of the most fascinating aspects of Archaeological is its connection to the great struggles between the Byzantine Empire and the Persian Sasanian Empire. During the 6th century, control of the Caucasus became a matter of enormous political importance. Both empires recognized the fortress as a strategic prize. Several campaigns were fought in the region. Ancient historians recorded lengthy sieges, military maneuvers, and fierce battles centered around the city. For those living inside the walls, daily life was shaped by both commerce and conflict. Archaeological excavations have revealed that Archaeological was far more than a military fortress. Researchers have uncovered the remains of churches, bathhouses, workshops, streets, and residential buildings. Fragments of pottery, glass vessels, coins, and jewellery provide glimpses into the lives of the people who once lived here. Merchants traded goods from distant lands. Craftsmen worked metal and ceramics. Families built homes within the protection of the city walls. The settlement functioned as both a defensive stronghold and a thriving urban community. One remarkable feature of the site is its sophisticated water system. Archaeologists have identified tunnels and channels that may have allowed residents to reach fresh water, even during prolonged sieges. Such engineering demonstrates careful planning. A fortress could only survive if its inhabitants had reliable access to water when surrounded by enemies. The builders clearly understood that defending a city required more than strong walls alone. Excavations continue to reveal new surprises. Each season brings additional discoveries buried beneath layers of earth. Some structures date to the Bronze Age, others belong to the Roman, Byzantine, or medieval periods. The result is a site preserving thousands of years of continuous human occupation. Few places in the Caucasus display such a rich sequence of history within a single location. Yet many mysteries remain. Ancient texts mention rulers, battles, and important events. But archaeology often raises as many questions as it answers. How large was the city's population during its greatest period of prosperity? How much of the ancient fortress still lies hidden beneath the surrounding fields? And how many buildings remain undiscovered beneath centuries of accumulated soil? Researchers continue searching for the answers. Every excavation adds another piece to the story. Today, visitors walking through Nokkala encounter quiet ruins surrounded by nature. The sounds of armies have long faded. The marketplaces have disappeared. Only the weathered stones remain, standing where generations of builders placed them centuries ago. It is easy to forget that this peaceful landscape was once one of the most contested fortresses in the ancient Caucasus. Hidden among the hills of western Georgia stands a forgotten city shaped by kings, merchants, and warriors. A fortress that guarded an ancient kingdom. A settlement that survived the ambitions of rival empires. And one of the Caucasus' most remarkable archaeological sites, where history continues to emerge from beneath the earth. The burnt city that was centuries ahead of its time. In the deserts of southeastern Iran lie the remains of a city that should never have been forgotten. Its streets once echoed with merchants, craftsmen, and families going about their daily lives. Its workshops produced intricate jewellery and beautifully painted pottery. Its people mastered engineering, traded across vast distances, and built one of the largest settlements of the Bronze Age. Then, after centuries of prosperity, the city was abandoned. Its buildings collapsed beneath drifting sands. Its name disappeared from history. And when archaeologists finally uncovered its ruins, they realized they had found one of the ancient world's most remarkable lost cities. This extraordinary place is known as Shahri Sukhteh, the Burnt City, a settlement whose discoveries continue to challenge what we thought we knew about the earliest civilizations. Shahri Sukhteh is located in Iran's Sistan region, near the border with Afghanistan. Today, the surrounding landscape appears harsh and unforgiving. Dry plains stretch toward the horizon, strong winds sweep across the desert, and little suggests that this was once home to a thriving urban centre. Yet more than 5,000 years ago, the environment looked very different. Nearby rivers and wetlands supported farming, trade, and permanent settlement. The city grew into one of the largest communities of its time. Archaeologists believe Shahri Sukhteh was founded around 3200 BC. Over the next 1,000 years, it expanded into a busy city covering more than 100 hectares. Thousands of people lived here. Homes lined carefully planned streets. Workshops produced goods for local use in distant markets. Trade routes connected the city with Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, and Central Asia. Long before the rise of the Persian Empire, this settlement had already become an important crossroads between civilizations. One of the most remarkable aspects of Shahri Sukhteh is the sophistication of its people. Excavations have uncovered evidence of organized neighborhoods, drainage systems, and specialized workshops dedicated to pottery, metalworking, and textile production. Rather than existing as a simple farming village, the city functioned as a complex urban center where skilled craftsmen and merchants played an important role in daily life. Among the most astonishing discoveries is a small ceramic bowl decorated with a series of painted images. At first glance, it appears ordinary, but when the images are viewed in sequence, they depict a goat leaping toward a tree. The changing positions create the illusion of movement. Many researchers consider it one of the earliest known examples of sequential animation ever discovered. Thousands of years before modern film, an artist in the burnt city had found a way to suggest motion through a series of carefully painted scenes. Another remarkable discovery came from one of the city's cemeteries. Archaeologists uncovered the remains of a young woman buried with an artificial eye. Crafted from a lightweight material and decorated with delicate gold lines, the prosthetic eye appears to have been worn during her lifetime. Tiny holes along its edges suggest it was attached with fine threads. It stands among the oldest known artificial eyes ever discovered, offering a remarkable glimpse into ancient craftsmanship and medical knowledge. Excavations have also revealed evidence of early brain surgery. One skull belonged to a young girl who suffered from hydrocephalus, a condition causing pressure within the skull. Researchers found signs that part of her skull had been carefully removed in an attempt to relieve that pressure. Even more astonishing, the bone showed evidence of healing, suggesting she survived the operation for some time afterward. The discovery highlights a level of medical understanding few would expect from a Bronze Age society. The city's cemetery itself is enormous. Containing thousands of graves, it provides archaeologists with valuable information about daily life, health, diet, and social organization. Jewelry made from lapis lazuli, turquoise, and carnelian reveals extensive trade networks stretching across Asia. Beautifully crafted pottery and woven textiles demonstrate exceptional artistic skill. Each excavation uncovers another piece of a civilization that was far more advanced than once imagined. Yet despite its success, Shara-Sukte did not survive. Archaeological evidence suggests the city experienced several destructive fires during its history, giving rise to its modern name, the Burnt City. Environmental changes may also have played a role. As nearby rivers shifted and water became less reliable, sustaining such a large settlement grew increasingly difficult. Gradually, the population declined, buildings were abandoned, and the desert slowly reclaimed the city. One of the greatest mysteries surrounding Shara-Sukte concerns the people themselves. They left behind no written history explaining who they were or why their city ultimately disappeared. Their remarkable achievements survive only through the objects buried beneath the sand. Each discovery offers another glimpse into lives that would otherwise have been forgotten. Today, Shara-Sukte is recognized as one of the most important archaeological sites in the ancient Near East. Researchers continue uncovering new artifacts every excavation season. Every layer of soil reveals evidence that this forgotten city was centuries ahead of its time. Hidden beneath the deserts of Iran lies a city filled with innovation, craftsmanship, and unanswered questions. A place where some of humanity's earliest technological achievements quietly waited beneath the sand for thousands of years. The burnt city remains one of archaeology's greatest windows into the distant past. The ancient village that changed European history. Along the banks of the mighty Danube River, hidden beneath layers of earth for thousands of years, archaeologists uncovered a settlement unlike any they had seen before. Its houses were built in perfect geometric shapes. Its people created mysterious stone sculptures with almost human faces. And long before farming spread across much of Europe, a remarkable community had already established itself here. For decades, historians believed they understood how Europe's earlier settlements developed. Then Lepenski Vir was discovered. The site challenged long-held ideas about prehistoric life, and revealed that one small village beside a river had been far more advanced than anyone had imagined. This remarkable place is known as Lepenski Vir, and it remains one of the most extraordinary archaeological discoveries ever made in Europe. Lepenski Vir is located in eastern Serbia, overlooking a dramatic stretch of the Danube River known as the Iron Gates Gorge. Steep cliffs rise on either side of the water. The river narrows as it passes through the mountains. Even today, the landscape feels both beautiful and isolated. Thousands of years ago, it offered something even more valuable: an abundance of fresh water, rich fishing grounds, and a natural route connecting different parts of southeastern Europe. Archaeologists believe people first settled here around 9,500 years ago. At a time when much of Europe was still inhabited by small groups of hunter-gatherers, the people of Lepenski Vir began creating something far more permanent. Instead of moving from place to place, they established an organized settlement along the riverbank. Generation after generation returned to the same location. Gradually, a unique community emerged. One of the most remarkable features of Lepenski Vir is its architecture. The houses were unlike anything previously discovered from this period. Each was built with a carefully planned trapezoidal floor plan. Stone foundations marked the edges of every structure. Central hearths occupied the middle of each home. The entire settlement appeared carefully organised rather than randomly constructed. The precision surprised archaeologists. It suggested planning, cooperation, and a shared understanding of design. Yet perhaps the site's greatest mystery lies within its sculptures. Excavations uncovered dozens of carved sandstone figures, unlike any found elsewhere in prehistoric Europe. Many possess broad human-like faces combined with fish-like features. Some appear calm, others almost seem to stare directly back at the viewer. Their purpose remains uncertain. Researchers believe they may represent river spirits, important ancestors, or religious figures connected to the Danube itself. Whatever their meaning, they demonstrate remarkable artistic skill. The people who carved them left behind no written explanations. Only the sculptures remain. The location of Lepenski Vir may help explain much of its success. The Danube was one of Europe's greatest natural highways. Fish migrated through the river in enormous numbers, particularly large sturgeon that could provide food for entire communities. Archaeological excavations uncovered vast quantities of fish bones, alongside hunting tools and everyday objects. The river supported life in ways few other places could. It allowed people to remain settled long before agriculture became widespread across the region. One of the most fascinating aspects of Lepenski Vir is that it existed during a time of enormous change. As farming gradually spread into southeastern Europe from the Near East, the people living here encountered entirely new ways of life. Instead of disappearing, the settlement adapted. Evidence suggests that hunting, fishing, and early farming existed side by side for a period. Lepenski Vir became a meeting place between two different worlds: the old traditions of Europe's hunter-gatherers, and the emerging agricultural societies that would eventually transform the continent. Archaeologists have also uncovered carefully arranged burials throughout the settlement. Some individuals were buried beneath the floors of their homes, others rested close to the river. These discoveries suggest that the people maintained strong spiritual connections to both their community and the surrounding landscape. Life, death, and daily existence appear to have been closely intertwined. Eventually the settlement was abandoned. The reasons remain uncertain. Changing environments, shifting cultures, and the spread of farming may all have contributed. Over thousands of years, the village slowly disappeared beneath layers of soil beside the Danube. Its remarkable history remained hidden until the 20th century, when construction projects in the Iron Gates region led archaeologists to begin excavations. What they uncovered transformed our understanding of prehistoric Europe. Today, Lepenski Vir is recognized as one of the continent's most important archaeological sites. Researchers continue studying its architecture, artwork, and human remains. Each discovery offers new insights into people who lived nearly 10,000 years ago. Yet many questions remain unanswered. Who were the artists behind the mysterious stone faces? What beliefs shaped their community? And why did such an advanced settlement emerge here so much earlier than expected? Along the banks of the Danube stands the legacy of a forgotten people, a village of remarkable builders, master craftsmen, and mysterious sculptors whose work continues to watch silently across the river after thousands of years. Lepenski Vir remains one of Europe's greatest prehistoric mysteries, the ancient village that was thousands of years ahead of its time. On the southern coast of Cyprus lie the remains of a village so old that it was already ancient when Stonehenge had yet to be built. Its people lived in carefully planned circular homes. They cultivated crops, raised animals, and built one of the earliest permanent farming communities ever discovered in the Mediterranean. For thousands of years, the settlement disappeared beneath layers of soil and stone. Its story faded from memory. Then archaeologists uncovered a remarkable glimpse into one of Europe's earliest villages, a place that transformed our understanding of how people first learned to live together in permanent communities. This extraordinary site is known as Kyriakitia, and it remains one of the most important prehistoric settlements ever discovered. Kyriakitia, also known as Koirakoitia, is located on the island of Cyprus, overlooking the Moroni River. Today, the landscape is quiet. Low hills surround the valley. Olive trees and shrubs cover the countryside. It is difficult to imagine that more than 9,000 years ago, this peaceful hillside was home to a thriving community of several hundred people. Archaeologists believe the village was founded around 7000 BC during the Neolithic period. This was an age when people across parts of the Near East and Eastern Mediterranean were gradually abandoning a nomadic lifestyle. Instead of constantly moving in search of food, they began building permanent homes, cultivating crops, and raising domesticated animals. Kirakitia became one of the finest examples of this remarkable transition. One of the village's most distinctive features is its architecture. Unlike the rectangular houses common in later civilizations, the homes at Kirakitia were circular. Built from stone and mud, each structure was carefully designed with thick walls and flat roofs supported by wooden beams. Inside, raised platforms served as sleeping areas. Stone hearths provided warmth and places for cooking. Despite their great age, the homes reveal thoughtful planning and practical design. The village itself was equally impressive. Narrow pathways connected clusters of houses. Stone walls surrounded parts of the settlement, perhaps providing protection or defining the community's boundaries. Researchers believe the builders carefully selected the hillside not only for its natural defences, but also for its access to fertile land and fresh water nearby. It was an ideal place to establish a permanent home. Excavations have uncovered evidence of everyday life that feels surprisingly familiar. Grinding stones used for preparing grain, stone tools for farming and woodworking, bone needles for sewing clothing, decorative ornaments made from shells and polished stone. Each artifact reveals a community that was highly skilled and remarkably self-sufficient. One of the most fascinating discoveries concerns the people themselves. Archaeologists found that many of the village's inhabitants were buried beneath the floors of their own homes. After death, family members were laid to rest within the houses where they had lived. Generations shared the same living spaces, creating a powerful connection between daily life and remembrance. The practice suggests that family, ancestry, and community held deep importance within the settlement. Although Kirakitia was remarkably advanced for its time, many mysteries remain. No written language existed here. The villagers left no names, no stories, no records explaining their beliefs or customs. Everything archaeologists know comes from careful excavation, broken pottery, stone foundations, animal bones, and the objects left behind by people who lived nearly 9,000 years ago. One question continues to intrigue researchers. Why was the settlement abandoned? For centuries, the village flourished. Then, quite suddenly, people left. The reasons remain uncertain. Environmental changes may have affected farming. Resources could have become more difficult to obtain. Disease or social changes may also have played a role. Without written evidence, the true answer remains hidden. Today, Kirakitia is recognized as one of the world's most important prehistoric archaeological sites and has been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Carefully reconstructed houses now help visitors understand how the settlement once appeared. Archaeologists continue studying the site, uncovering new details about one of Europe's earliest farming communities. Every excavation reveals another piece of humanity's distant past. High above a quiet river valley on the island of Cyprus stands the legacy of one of the world's earliest villages, a community of skilled builders and farmers, a place where families lived, worked, and remembered their ancestors beneath the same stone roofs, and one of the most extraordinary prehistoric settlements ever discovered, preserving a chapter of history nearly 9,000 years old. The forgotten Roman city above the clouds. High in the mountains of southern Spain, overlooking rolling valleys and distant peaks, lie the quiet ruins of a city that was once filled with life. Stone streets still cross the hilltop, the remains of grand houses overlook the countryside, and an ancient Roman theatre continues to face the same landscape it has watched for nearly 2,000 years. Unlike Rome or Pompeii, few travellers have heard of this place, yet it once stood at the crossroads of trade, culture, and empire. Long before its streets fell silent, Asinipo was one of the most important settlements in this corner of the Iberian Peninsula. Today, only its ruins remain, scattered across a peaceful hill where history seems almost frozen in time. This remarkable place is known as Asinipo, and it is one of Spain's most overlooked archaeological treasures. Asinipo is located near the modern town of Ronda in Andalusia, southern Spain. The city occupies a broad plateau more than 900 metres above sea level. From its highest points, sweeping views stretch across fertile valleys, rugged mountains, and distant rivers. It is easy to understand why ancient people chose this location. The elevated position offered security, fresh water, and easy access to the surrounding countryside. Although Sinope is often associated with the Romans, its history began much earlier. Archaeologists believe people were already living here centuries before Roman rule reached the Iberian Peninsula. The settlement gradually expanded as different cultures occupied the region. When the Romans arrived, they transformed Sinope into a prosperous city complete with impressive public buildings and carefully planned streets. One of the site's most remarkable features is its theatre. Carved directly into the natural hillside, it could seat hundreds of spectators. Unlike modern theatres, performances here unfolded beneath the open sky. Residents gathered to watch dramas, public ceremonies, and important civic events. Even today, visitors can sit on the ancient stone seats and look across the same stage where audiences once laughed, applauded, and celebrated nearly 2,000 years ago. Surrounding the theatre are the remains of homes, baths, temples, and public buildings. Wide streets connected different parts of the city. Markets once bustled with merchants selling goods brought from across the Roman world. Local farmers supplied grain, olives, and grapes from the surrounding countryside. Sinope became an important regional centre where commerce and daily life flourished. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence that the city even produced its own coins. This was a privilege reserved for communities with significant economic and political importance. The discovery suggests Sinope enjoyed considerable prosperity during its peak. Its location allowed trade to pass through the surrounding mountains, while also connecting inland settlements with the Mediterranean coast. Yet despite its success, the city gradually declined. Historians believe several factors contributed to its abandonment. Trade routes shifted, political priorities changed, nearby settlements grew in importance. As the Roman Empire weakened, many smaller cities across Hispania struggled to survive. Sinope slowly lost its population. Homes were abandoned, public buildings fell into disrepair. Nature gradually reclaimed the once busy streets. One of the most fascinating aspects of Sinope is how peacefully it has been preserved. Unlike cities destroyed by volcanic eruptions or violent invasions, much of Sinope simply faded away over time. The stones remained where they had been placed centuries earlier. The theatre continued overlooking the valley. The silence that settled across the hill has lasted for generations. Modern excavations continue revealing new details about the city's history. Fragments of pottery, coins, tools, and architectural remains help archaeologists reconstruct daily life within the settlement. Each discovery adds another chapter to the story of a community that once played an important role in Roman Spain. Yet many questions remain unanswered. How many people lived here at its greatest size? What events finally convinced the last residents to leave? And how much of the ancient city still lies buried beneath the surrounding fields? The answers may still rest beneath layers of untouched soil. Today, Sinope receives only a fraction of the visitors who explore Spain's more famous Roman sites. That quiet atmosphere makes the ruins feel especially timeless. Walking through the empty streets, it is easy to imagine the sounds of daily life returning for just a moment. The voices of merchants, the applause of audiences in the theatre, the footsteps of citizens crossing the stone roads. Then, as quickly as the imagination fades, only the wind remains. High above the valleys of Andalusia stands a forgotten Roman city, a place of theatre, the forgotten city that invented urban life. Hidden beneath a low mound in northeastern Syria lie the remains of a city so old that it may have changed the course of human history. Long before Babylon, long before the great cities of ancient Egypt reached their height, a thriving settlement stood here on the fertile plains of Mesopotamia. Its streets bustled with merchants, its workshops produced pottery and tools, and thousands of people lived together in one of humanity's earliest urban communities. For centuries, the city disappeared beneath layers of earth and dust. Its name faded from memory. Then archaeologists began excavating the mound known as Tel Brak. What they uncovered challenged long-held ideas about the birth of cities. This remarkable place is known as Tel Brak, and it remains one of the most important archaeological discoveries ever made in the ancient Near East. Tel Brak is located in northeastern Syria, near the upper reaches of the Kabur River. Today the landscape is quiet. Wide plains stretch toward the horizon. Small villages dot the countryside. At first glance, the mound appears unremarkable. Like many ancient tells across the Middle East, it looks like nothing more than a gentle hill. But beneath its surface lie thousands of years of continuous human history. Archaeologists believe people first settled here more than 7,000 years ago. Over time, the small farming community expanded into something extraordinary. By the 4th millennium BC, Tel Brak had become one of the largest settlements in Mesopotamia. For many years, historians believed that large cities first developed farther south in places such as Uruk. Tel Brak revealed a different story. Urban life was emerging in more than one region at the same time. One of the site's most remarkable discoveries is a building unlike any other. Known as the Eye Temple, it was constructed more than 5,000 years ago. Inside, archaeologists uncovered thousands of tiny stone figurines. Each possessed a pair of oversized eyes, carefully carved into its face. Some were only a few inches tall, others were slightly larger. No one knows exactly why so many of these unusual figures were placed inside the temple. Researchers believe they may have represented worshippers, making symbolic offerings. Others suggest they held religious or ceremonial significance. Whatever their purpose, they remain among the most distinctive artifacts ever discovered in ancient Mesopotamia. Excavations have revealed that Tel Brak was far more than a religious centre. The city contained workshops where skilled craftsmen produced pottery, tools, and decorative objects. Large public buildings stood alongside ordinary homes. Wide streets connected different neighbourhoods. Evidence of long-distance trade suggests goods arrived from distant regions across Mesopotamia and Anatolia. The settlement had become a busy urban centre centuries before many other famous cities reached their peak. One discovery surprised archaeologists more than almost any other. Beyond the city's central area, researchers uncovered evidence that Tel Brak had expanded rapidly into surrounding settlements. Rather than remaining a compact village, it spread outward across the landscape. Some archaeologists describe it as one of the earliest examples of urban expansion. In many ways, the city faced challenges still familiar today: growing populations, changing neighbourhoods, and the need to organise increasingly complex communities. Yet Tel Brak also preserves evidence of a more troubling chapter. Excavations uncovered a mass burial containing the remains of numerous individuals. The circumstances remain uncertain. Some researchers believe the deaths may have resulted from conflict. Others suggest disease or social upheaval. Without written records explaining what happened, the true story remains hidden beneath the soil. It serves as a reminder that the rise of the world's earliest cities was not always peaceful. Like many ancient settlements, Tel Brak experienced periods of prosperity followed by decline. Different civilizations occupied the site across thousands of years. Buildings were demolished and rebuilt. New rulers arrived. Old traditions faded. Each generation added another layer to the growing mound. Eventually the city was abandoned. Wind and dust gradually covered its streets until only the hill remained. Today, archaeologists continue uncovering new discoveries at Tel Brak. Every excavation reveals fresh insights into the origins of urban civilization. The city has transformed our understanding of how complex societies first developed. Rather than appearing suddenly in a single place, urban life emerged through many communities experimenting with new ways of living together. Hidden beneath an ordinary hill in Syria lies one of humanity's earliest cities, a place of temples, merchants, craftsmen, and remarkable innovation. A settlement that helped shape the beginning of urban life, and one of the ancient world's greatest archaeological treasures, still revealing its secrets thousands of years after its people disappeared. Great stone walls hidden in East Africa. Hidden among the rolling hills of western Kenya stand enormous stone walls that have puzzled visitors for generations. There are no towering castles here, no written inscriptions, and no famous kings whose names are carved into the stones. Instead, hundreds of carefully stacked walls weave across the landscape, surrounding ancient enclosures that have survived for centuries. Who built them? Why were they constructed? And how did a community without mortar create one of the largest stone monuments in East Africa? These questions have fascinated archaeologists for decades. This remarkable place is known as Thimlik Ohinga, and it remains one of Africa's most extraordinary archaeological sites. Thimlik Ohinga is located near Lake Victoria in western Kenya, surrounded by rocky hills and open grasslands. Today, the countryside is peaceful. Small villages and grazing livestock dot the landscape. At first glance, the ancient walls appear almost natural, blending into the surrounding hills. But a closer look reveals remarkable craftsmanship. Thousands of stones were carefully selected and stacked together without using mortar. The walls have remained standing for hundreds of years. Archaeologists believe the settlement was built sometime around the 16th century, although the techniques used here may be even older. The name Thimlich Ohinga comes from the local Luo language and roughly means a frighteningly large stone enclosure. It is an appropriate description. Some of the walls rise more than 4 meters high and are several meters thick. Together they form a maze of interconnected courtyards, narrow entrances, and defensive barriers. Unlike a single fortress, Thimlich Ohinga is made up of numerous enclosed spaces. Researchers believe families, livestock, and important community activities were all protected within these stone compounds. The layout suggests careful planning rather than random construction. Every entrance was narrow and easily defended. The curved walls created multiple layers of protection. Anyone approaching the settlement would have been forced through a series of controlled passageways before reaching its centre. One of the most fascinating aspects of the site is the building technique itself. The stones were not cemented together. Instead, builders relied on careful placement, balancing each rock against the next with remarkable precision. This dry stone method required patience, experience, and an excellent understanding of weight and stability. Centuries later, many sections of the walls remain remarkably intact. Historians believe the settlement served several important purposes. Security was almost certainly one of them. During periods of migration and regional conflict, communities needed places where both people and livestock could be protected. The enclosures also created organised living spaces where families could gather safely. Beyond defence, Thimlich Ohinga likely functioned as a social and economic centre. Daily life unfolded within its stone walls. Meals were prepared, children played in the courtyards, elders met to discuss community matters, livestock were sheltered at night. The settlement was not simply a fortress, it was a thriving community designed to support everyday life. For many years, outsiders struggled to believe that such an impressive monument had been built by local African societies. Early colonial writers often suggested foreign builders proposing unlikely connections to distant civilizations. Modern archaeology has firmly rejected those ideas. Excavations, oral traditions, and careful research all point to indigenous communities whose engineering skills created the monument using local knowledge and materials. Thimlich Ohinga stands as an important reminder that sophisticated architecture developed independently in many different parts of the world. Excavations have uncovered pottery, iron tools, animal remains, and evidence of long-term occupation. These discoveries help archaeologists reconstruct daily life within the settlement. They reveal a community connected to farming, herding, trade, and regional cultural traditions. Yet many questions remain unanswered. Exactly how many people once lived here? How long did construction take? And why was the settlement eventually abandoned? Like many archaeological sites, the stones tell only part of the story. The rest has been carried away by time. Today, Thimlich Ohinga is recognised as one of Africa's most significant archaeological landmarks and has been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Researchers continue studying its remarkable architecture, hoping to better understand the communities that built it. Visitors who walk through its narrow stone passageways often find themselves surprised by its scale. Photographs rarely capture just how impressive the walls truly are. Hidden among the hills of western Kenya stands a city of stone built without mortar, a place shaped by remarkable engineering, careful planning, and generations of skilled builders, the forgotten stone city of Kami. Hidden among the dry hills of southwestern Zimbabwe lie the remains of a magnificent city that once ruled a powerful kingdom. Its stone walls climb gracefully along rocky hillsides, ancient passageways wind between carefully built terraces, and the foundations of palaces still overlook the surrounding landscape, just as they did centuries ago. Unlike the famous ruins of Great Zimbabwe, this remarkable place remains largely unknown outside southern Africa. Yet for generations it served as the heart of a thriving kingdom connected to trade routes stretching thousands of miles. Its people built without mortar, they decorated their walls with intricate stone patterns, and they created one of Africa's greatest architectural achievements. This extraordinary place is known as Kami, and it stands as one of the continent's most remarkable forgotten cities. Kami is located a short distance west of the modern city of Bulawayo in Zimbabwe. The surrounding landscape is dotted with granite hills, open woodlands, and seasonal rivers. Long before European explorers reached this region, communities had already recognized its strategic importance. The hills offered natural protection. Nearby rivers supplied fresh water, and the surrounding plains supported farming and cattle herding, both essential to daily life. Archaeologists believe Kami rose to prominence during the 15th century, not long after the decline of Great Zimbabwe. As political power shifted across the region, a new kingdom emerged. Kami became its capital. For nearly 200 years, it served as an important centre of government, trade, and culture. The city gradually expanded as rulers constructed impressive stone platforms across the rocky landscape. One of the first things visitors notice is that Kami looks very different from many other ancient cities. Rather than building directly on level ground, its architects transformed the natural hills into enormous stone terraces. Layer upon layer of carefully stacked granite created broad platforms capable of supporting homes, ceremonial buildings, and royal residences. The walls were built without mortar. Each stone was carefully selected and placed by hand. The precision remains remarkable even today. Many of the retaining walls are decorated with beautiful geometric patterns. Rows of carefully arranged stones form chevrons, herringbone designs, and alternating bands that add elegance to structures already impressive in size. These decorations served no structural purpose. Instead, they reflected craftsmanship, status, and artistic expression. The builders wanted their city not only to function well, but also to inspire admiration. Excavations have revealed that Kami was far more than a royal residence. The city contained homes, workshops, storage areas, and places where everyday life unfolded. Pottery, iron tools, glass beads, and imported porcelain have all been uncovered by archaeologists. These discoveries reveal something remarkable. Kami was connected to international trade networks stretching across the Indian Ocean. Merchants brought goods from distant regions, including the coast of East Africa, Arabia, India, and even China. Far from being isolated, this inland kingdom participated in a thriving global exchange centuries before modern transportation. Cattle also played an important role in the city's economy. Large herds represented both wealth and social status. The surrounding grasslands provided excellent grazing, helping support the prosperity of the kingdom. Agriculture, trade, craftsmanship, and livestock together formed the foundation of daily life within the city. Yet, like many great capitals, Kami did not last forever. By the late 17th century, political changes, shifting trade routes, and growing regional conflicts weakened the kingdom. Gradually, the population declined. The royal court moved elsewhere. The terraces were abandoned. Nature slowly reclaimed the city. For generations, the stone walls stood silently beneath the African sun. One of the most fascinating chapters in Kami's history came much later. Early European explorers struggled to believe that such an advanced stone city had been built by African civilizations. Some proposed distant foreign builders, despite having little evidence. Modern archaeology has completely overturned those assumptions. Excavations clearly demonstrate that Kami was designed and constructed by the ancestors of the local Shona-speaking peoples, whose architectural knowledge and engineering skills created one of southern Africa's greatest monuments. Today, Kami is recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site and continues to reveal new discoveries. Archaeologists are still uncovering buildings, artifacts, and evidence of everyday life hidden beneath centuries of accumulated soil. Every excavation adds another piece to the story of a city that once stood at the center of a flourishing kingdom. Among the quiet hills of Zimbabwe stands a forgotten capital built from stone alone, a city of remarkable terraces, the mountain city hidden above the sacred valley. High above Peru's sacred valley, where steep mountains rise above winding rivers, lies an ancient city that many travelers overlook. Its stone terraces cling to the mountainside. Ancient temples stand beneath the open sky, and narrow streets wind through a settlement that once played an important role in one of South America's greatest civilizations. Most visitors pass through the valley on their way to Machu Picchu. Few realize that another remarkable city waits quietly nearby, a place filled with extraordinary engineering, mysterious ceremonial sites, and breathtaking views that have changed little for centuries. This remarkable place is known as Pisac, and it remains one of the finest examples of Inca architecture ever built. Pisac is located high in the Andes of southern Peru, overlooking the fertile Urubamba Valley. The landscape is dramatic. Towering mountains surround the settlement. Deep valleys stretch below. Clouds drift across the peaks throughout the day. The location was carefully chosen. From these heights, the Inca could watch over important trade routes while protecting valuable farmland in the valley beneath. Archaeologists believe Pisac was established during the 15th century, when the Inca Empire was rapidly expanding across the Andes. Like many important settlements, the city served several purposes at once. It was a military stronghold, a religious centre, and an agricultural community supporting the surrounding region. Together, these roles made Pisac an essential part of the empire's growing network. One of the first things visitors notice is the remarkable system of agricultural terraces covering the mountainsides. Hundreds of stone-supported platforms descend the slopes in graceful curves. At first glance, they appear almost decorative. In reality, they were masterpieces of engineering. The terraces created level ground for farming while preventing erosion and conserving precious water. Even after hundreds of years, many remain remarkably well preserved. The city's builders demonstrated extraordinary skill in working with stone. Walls were constructed using precisely shaped blocks that fit together so closely that even today it is difficult to slide a knife blade between them. Unlike many ancient civilizations, the Inca achieved this precision without mortar. Each stone was carefully carved until it matched its neighbours perfectly. The result was architecture capable of withstanding powerful earthquakes that regularly shook the Andes. Within the settlement stand temples, ceremonial plazas, homes and storage buildings. Some structures were reserved for religious activities. Others served as living quarters for officials and skilled workers. Stone stairways connect different parts of the city, climbing steadily across the mountainside. Every section appears carefully planned to work in harmony with the surrounding landscape. One of Pisac's most fascinating features is its ceremonial complex. Here, archaeologists have identified finely carved ritual spaces believed to have played an important role in Inca religious life. Among the most impressive is the Intihuatana, often translated as the hitching post of the sun. Carved directly from living rock, it may have been used for astronomical observations or ceremonial events connected to the changing seasons. Like similar structures elsewhere in the Inca world, its exact purpose remains uncertain. The surrounding mountains also held deep spiritual significance. The Inca believed many peaks were sacred beings known as apus, powerful guardians watching over the land and its people. Building cities among these towering mountains was not simply practical. It reflected a spiritual connection between the landscape and everyday life. Nature itself became part of the city's design. When Spanish forces entered the Andes during the 16th century, the Inca Empire rapidly began to collapse. Like many settlements throughout the region, Pisac was eventually abandoned. Its buildings slowly fell into ruin. Vegetation spread across the terraces. The city disappeared into the mountains where it remained largely forgotten for centuries. Modern archaeology has revealed just how sophisticated Pisac truly was. Excavations continue uncovering new details about its construction, agriculture, and religious practices. Researchers study the city's drainage, systems, architecture, and carefully planned layout, discovering fresh evidence of the remarkable engineering skills possessed by the Inca. Yet many questions remain unanswered. Exactly how many people once lived here? What ceremonies took place within its sacred spaces? And how much of the settlement still lies hidden beneath the surrounding slopes? The mountains continue guarding many of those secrets. Today, Pisac stands as one of Peru's most spectacular archaeological sites. Visitors who climb its ancient pathways are rewarded not only with breathtaking views, but also with the opportunity to experience a city that has changed remarkably little since the days of the Inca. High above the sacred valley rests a forgotten mountain city built from stone and shaped by extraordinary vision. A place where engineering, spirituality and nature became one, and one of the greatest treasures of the ancient Andes, the ancient stone tomb older than the pyramids. On a windswept peninsula in northwestern France stands a monument so old that it has watched over the landscape for nearly 7,000 years. Long before the pyramids rose above the sands of Egypt, long before Stonehenge took shape on the plains of England, a community of prehistoric builders gathered enormous stones and created one of the oldest surviving monuments in Europe. At first glance, It appears to be little more than a grassy hill. But hidden beneath that mound lies an astonishing network of ancient burial chambers stretching deep into the earth. Who built it? How did they move such massive stones? And why did they create one of the largest megalithic tombs ever constructed? This extraordinary place is known as Bar Nenez, and it remains one of humanity's earliest architectural masterpieces. Bar Nenez stands on the coast of Brittany in western France, overlooking the Bay of Morlaix. Today, the surrounding landscape is peaceful. Gentle hills meet the Atlantic Ocean, the sea stretches toward the horizon, and seabirds circle above the rocky shoreline. It is a quiet place. Yet thousands of years ago, it was home to a remarkable engineering project unlike anything Europe had seen before. Archaeologists believe Bar Nenez was constructed around 4800 BC during the Neolithic period. This makes it one of the oldest monumental structures still standing anywhere in the world. The people who built it had no metal tools, no wheeled vehicles, and no written language. Yet they successfully transported thousands of tons of stone to create an enormous burial monument more than 70 meters long. From the outside, Bar Nenez resembles a broad earthen mound covered with grass and stone. Only when visitors step closer do they realize what lies inside. The mound contains 11 separate burial chambers connected by long stone passageways. Each chamber was carefully constructed using massive upright stones supporting equally enormous capstones overhead. Some of these stones weigh several tons. Moving them across the landscape required careful planning and extraordinary cooperation. One of the most fascinating aspects of Bar Nenez is the precision of its construction. The builders selected different types of local stone, carefully shaping and arranging them to create stable passageways that have survived for nearly 7 millennia. Despite countless winters, storms, and centuries of weathering, much of the structure remains remarkably intact. It stands as a testament to the remarkable engineering skills of people often described as prehistoric. Excavations inside the chambers uncovered pottery, polished stone axes, beads, and fragments of human remains. These discoveries confirm that Bar Nenez served as an important burial monument for generations, yet researchers believe it was far more than a cemetery. Constructing a monument of this scale required the cooperation of an entire community. The tomb may also have functioned as a ceremonial gathering place, where important rituals connected to ancestry, remembrance, and spiritual belief took place. Several of the stones inside the chambers bear mysterious carvings. Simple lines, arcs, axe-like symbols, and geometric patterns have been etched into the rock. Their meaning remains uncertain. Some archaeologists believe they held symbolic or religious significance. Others suggest they marked particular families or ceremonial traditions. Without written records, the true meaning has been lost to time. The carvings remain silent witnesses to beliefs we can only imagine. One remarkable chapter in Bar Nenez history occurred during the 20th century. In the 1950s, part of the mound was damaged by quarrying operations. As stone was removed, hidden chambers unexpectedly came to light. The discovery immediately halted further destruction. Archaeologists soon realized they had uncovered one of Europe's greatest prehistoric monuments. Careful restoration followed, preserving the site for future generations. Had the quarry continued for only a little longer, much of Bar Nenez might have disappeared forever. The monument also reveals something important about the people who built it. They were not isolated groups struggling simply to survive. They organized large construction projects, planned complex architecture, and created monuments designed to endure for countless generations. Their achievements remind us that sophisticated societies existed in Europe thousands of years before the rise of famous ancient civilizations. Today, Bar Nenez remains one of France's most remarkable archaeological treasures. Visitors can walk beside the ancient mound and peer into chambers where ceremonies took place nearly 7,000 years ago. The silence inside feels timeless. The stones seem almost unchanged since the day they were first raised. Along the rugged coast of Brittany stands a monument older than the pyramids themselves, a place built by forgotten hands, a tomb created for generations yet unborn, and one of Europe's oldest surviving masterpieces, quietly preserving the memory of a civilization that left no written history behind, the forgotten hilltop city of Citania de Briteiros. High above the valleys of northern Portugal stand the remarkable remains of a city that flourished long before the Roman Empire reached the Iberian Peninsula. Its stone streets still wind between ancient homes, Massive defensive walls encircle the hilltop, and the foundations of hundreds of buildings quietly overlook the same countryside they have watched for more than 2,000 years. Unlike many famous ancient cities, this one is rarely crowded with visitors, yet it was once among the largest and most sophisticated settlements in Western Europe, a place of skilled builders, thriving communities, and remarkable engineering. This extraordinary site is known as Sitania de Bruteiros, and it remains one of the finest surviving examples of Europe's forgotten Iron Age world. Sitania de Bruteiros lies in the green hills of northern Portugal, not far from the modern city of Guimarães. The settlement occupies a commanding hilltop with sweeping views across rivers, forests and fertile valleys. Its location was carefully chosen. Anyone approaching from the surrounding countryside could be seen long before reaching the city. Fresh water was available nearby. The surrounding land supported farming, livestock and trade. It was an ideal place for a permanent settlement. Archaeologists believe the city was founded during the Iron Age, several centuries before the arrival of Roman rule. It belonged to the Castro culture, a network of fortified hilltop communities that flourished across northwestern Iberia. These settlements shared distinctive architecture and ways of life while remaining connected through trade and cultural exchange. Sitania de Bruteiros eventually grew into one of the largest and most important of them all. One of the first features visitors notice is the impressive system of defensive walls. Several concentric stone fortifications surround the settlement. Built from carefully fitted granite blocks without mortar, the walls followed the natural shape of the hill. Narrow gateways controlled entry into the city. Together, the fortifications created a settlement that was both secure and carefully planned. Inside the walls, archaeologists have uncovered the remains of more than 150 buildings. Many are circular, while others are rectangular, reflecting changes in architecture over time. Stone-paved streets connect different neighbourhoods, creating an organised layout that feels surprisingly modern. Walking through the ruins today, it is easy to imagine daily life unfolding here centuries ago. Families preparing meals over open fires, children running through the narrow lanes, craftsmen shaping iron tools, pottery and jewellery inside their workshops. One of the city's most remarkable discoveries is its sophisticated water system. Stone channels carried fresh water throughout parts of the settlement. Public fountains and carefully constructed drainage systems reveal that the inhabitants placed great importance on managing one of their most valuable resources. Such engineering demonstrates a level of planning rarely associated with Iron Age communities. Among the most fascinating structures is a building known as the Pedra Formosa, or Beautiful Stone. Its finely carved entrance leads into what archaeologists believe may have been a communal bathhouse or ritual steam chamber. The purpose of the building is still debated. Some researchers believe it served ceremonial functions connected with purification or religious practice. Others suggest it was used as a form of public bath. Whatever its exact role, it reflects a community with complex traditions and impressive architectural skills. When the Romans expanded into the Iberian Peninsula, life at Sitania de Bruteiros gradually began to change. Roman influence introduced new building styles, technologies, and customs. Rather than disappearing immediately, the settlement adapted. Some houses were rebuilt using Roman techniques. Imported goods appeared, trade increased. For a time, local traditions and Roman culture existed side by side. Eventually, however, the city was abandoned. The reasons remain uncertain. Political changes, shifting trade routes, and the growth of settlements elsewhere may all have contributed. Its streets gradually fell silent. The roofs collapsed. Vegetation spread across the hill. For centuries, the forgotten city rested undisturbed beneath the Portuguese landscape. Modern excavations have transformed Sitania de Bruteiros into one of the most important archaeological sites in Portugal. Researchers continue uncovering homes, tools, jewellery, coins and everyday objects that reveal how its people lived. Each discovery adds another chapter to the story of a civilization that thrived long before written records became common in the region. Yet many mysteries remain. What stories were shared around the evening fires? What ceremonies took place within the city's walls? And how many parts of the settlement still lie hidden beneath the earth? The answers may still be waiting beneath the stones. High above the valleys of northern Portugal stands a forgotten city built with remarkable skill and careful planning. A place where Iron Age communities created streets, homes, and defences that have endured for more than 2,000 years, and one of Europe's greatest hidden archaeological treasures, quietly preserving the legacy of a civilization that history almost forgot. The forgotten fortress of Altın Tepe. High above the Euphrates Valley in eastern Turkey stand the weathered remains of a fortress that once guarded the frontier of a forgotten kingdom. Its stone walls still crown the hilltop. Ancient temples overlook the surrounding plains, and beneath layers of earth, archaeologists uncovered royal treasures that had remained hidden for nearly 3,000 years. Unlike the famous cities of Mesopotamia or Egypt, few people have heard of Altın Tepe. Yet during the Iron Age, it was one of the most important strongholds of a powerful kingdom that ruled the mountains of eastern Anatolia, a place where kings built temples, soldiers defended distant frontiers, and craftsmen created remarkable works of art. This extraordinary site is known as Altın Tepe, and it remains one of Turkey's most fascinating forgotten archaeological treasures. Altın Tepe is located in Erzincan province, overlooking a broad section of the upper Euphrates River. The fortress occupies a steep rocky hill rising above the surrounding landscape. From its summit, the ancient inhabitants could watch the valley for miles in every direction. Trade routes passed nearby, travellers crossed the river below, and anyone approaching the fortress could be seen long before reaching its gates. It was an ideal position for defending the kingdom's western frontier. Archaeologists believe Altın Tepe flourished during the 8th century BC as part of the kingdom of Urartu. Although the Urartians are less well known today than the Assyrians or Babylonians, they built one of the strongest kingdoms of the ancient Near East. Their territory stretched across much of eastern Turkey, Armenia, and northwestern Iran. They were master builders, skilled metalworkers, and experts at constructing powerful hilltop fortresses. Altın Tepe became one of their most impressive regional centres. Excavations have revealed that the fortress contained far more than military defences. Inside the walls stood palaces, storage buildings, workshops, and one of the finest Urartian temples ever discovered. The temple was dedicated to the god Haldi, the chief deity of the Urartian kingdom. Its stone foundations and carefully planned layout demonstrate the remarkable architectural skills of its builders. For the people who lived here, religion and royal authority were closely connected. The fortress served as both a military stronghold and an important ceremonial centre. One of the site's greatest discoveries came from its royal tombs. Archaeologists uncovered richly furnished burial chambers containing bronze vessels, weapons, jewellery, and beautifully crafted ornaments. These treasures reflected the wealth and sophistication of the Urartian elite. Many objects displayed extraordinary artistic detail, combining practical craftsmanship with elegant decoration. Each artifact offered another glimpse into a civilization that is still not widely known outside the archaeological world. The builders of Altın Tepe also demonstrated impressive engineering. Massive stone foundations supported mud brick walls that once rose high above the hilltop. Storage rooms protected valuable grain and supplies. Drainage systems helped preserve important buildings during heavy rain. Everything about the fortress suggests careful planning. It was designed not only to survive attack, but also to function as a permanent administrative centre, governing the surrounding region. Like many ancient kingdoms, however, Urartu eventually faced growing challenges. Powerful neighbours pressed against its borders. Political instability weakened royal authority. And by the late 7th century BC, the kingdom began to collapse. As Urartu disappeared from history, many of its fortresses, including Altın Tepe, were gradually abandoned. The once busy courtyards fell silent. Roofs collapsed. The wind became the only sound moving through the empty stone walls. For centuries, the fortress remained largely forgotten. Its temples disappeared beneath layers of earth. Its royal tombs rested undisturbed beneath the hill. Only modern archaeology brought the city back into the light. Beginning in the 20th century, excavations revealed the remarkable scale of the settlement and the sophistication of the civilization that built it. Yet many questions remain unanswered. How many people once lived within the fortress? What ceremonies took place inside the temple of Haldi? And how many buildings still remain hidden beneath the surrounding ground? Every excavation uncovers new clues, but much of Altın Tepe's story is still waiting to be discovered. Today, the quiet hill overlooking the Euphrates preserves the legacy of a forgotten kingdom that once rivaled the great powers of the ancient Near East. Its walls continue to stand against the passing centuries, its temples still overlook the valley, and its buried treasures remind us that some of history's greatest civilizations are also among its least remembered. High above the plains of eastern Turkey, Altın Tepe remains a forgotten fortress of kings, warriors, and master builders, a place where an ancient kingdom once stood watch over its frontier, and one of the hidden archaeological treasures that continues to reveal the remarkable story of the Eurasian world, the forgotten stone circles larger than Stonehenge. Across the quiet countryside of northern England lies a prehistoric monument that most people have never heard of. There are no towering standing stones reaching toward the sky, no crowded visitor centre, and none of the worldwide fame enjoyed by Stonehenge. Yet in terms of scale, this ancient site is even more remarkable. 3 enormous circular earthworks stretch across the landscape. Together, they form one of the largest ceremonial complexes ever built in prehistoric Britain. Who created them? Why were they constructed? And what purpose did these vast circles serve more than 4,000 years ago? Despite decades of archaeological research, many of those questions remain unanswered. This remarkable place is known as the Thornborough Henges, and it stands among Britain's greatest forgotten prehistoric mysteries. The Thornborough Henges are located in North Yorkshire, surrounded today by peaceful farmland and gently rolling hills. At first glance, the site appears surprisingly ordinary. Unlike Stonehenge, where massive stones dominate the landscape, the Thornborough monuments are made almost entirely from earth. Broad circular banks surround wide open spaces. Deep ditches define their boundaries. Centuries of farming have softened their outlines, making them difficult to recognise from ground level. Only from above does their extraordinary scale become clear. Archaeologists believe the henges were built between 3,500 and 2,500 BC during the late Neolithic and early Bronze Age. The 3 circles are aligned in a straight line, stretching across the landscape for nearly a mile. Each henge measures roughly 240 metres in diameter, making them significantly larger than Stonehenge itself. Constructing monuments of this size required an astonishing amount of labour. Thousands of tons of earth had to be dug using simple tools made from wood, stone, and bone. The builders possessed no metal equipment, no machinery, only determination, planning, and the cooperation of an entire community. One of the most fascinating aspects of Thornborough is its unusual layout. The 3 great circles appear carefully positioned within the surrounding landscape. Some researchers have suggested they were deliberately aligned with nearby rivers, hills, or celestial events. Others believe the arrangement reflected ceremonial traditions now lost to history. Unlike defensive fortifications, the henges offered little protection. The banks were low, the entrances remained open. Everything about the site suggests gathering rather than warfare. Excavations have uncovered evidence that people travelled here from considerable distances. Fragments of pottery, stone tools, animal bones, and ceremonial objects have been found throughout the complex. These discoveries suggest large gatherings may have taken place here. Perhaps seasonal festivals, religious ceremonies, or meetings between communities scattered across prehistoric Britain. The exact purpose remains uncertain. One intriguing theory compares Thornborough to a prehistoric ceremonial landscape rather than a single monument. The 3 henges were only part of a much larger complex. Ancient cursus monuments, burial mounds, and smaller ceremonial sites surrounded them. Together they formed an enormous sacred landscape that evolved over many centuries. For the people who built it, the entire valley may have held spiritual importance. One mystery concerns the striking white appearance the monuments may once have possessed. Archaeologists believe the banks were originally covered with crushed gypsum, a bright white mineral found locally. Under sunlight, the enormous circles would have gleamed across the landscape, making them visible from great distances. The effect must have been extraordinary. Imagine approaching the valley thousands of years ago and seeing 3 brilliant white circles stretching across the countryside. It would have been an unforgettable sight. Yet despite its importance, Thornborough remained largely overlooked for much of modern history. Because the monuments were built from earth rather than towering stones, many people simply failed to recognise their significance. Parts of the surrounding landscape were even damaged by quarrying during the 20th century, before stronger efforts were made to protect the site. Fortunately, much of the complex survives today. Modern archaeological surveys continue revealing new details without disturbing the ancient ground. Geophysical scanning has uncovered hidden features beneath the soil, while aerial photography has revealed patterns impossible to see from the surface. Every new investigation helps researchers better understand one of Britain's oldest ceremonial landscapes. Even so, the greatest questions remain unanswered. Why build 3 enormous henges instead of 1? What ceremonies took place within them? Why were they aligned so carefully across the valley? Without written records, the answers remain locked beneath the earth. Today, visitors walking across the quiet fields may not immediately realise they are standing inside one of the largest prehistoric monuments in Europe. The banks rise gently from the grass. Birdsong replaces the voices of ancient gatherings, and the landscape feels almost timeless. Yet beneath that peaceful silence lies the legacy of a civilization capable of creating monuments on an astonishing scale. Hidden among the fields of northern England stand 3 great circles built thousands of years before history was written. A place of ceremony, mystery and forgotten traditions, and one of the largest prehistoric monuments ever created, quietly waiting for the world to remember it once again.